And let's introduce the first guy in this TVZ in the top left here. The scariest Zerg from Korea. He is Dark! And in the bottom right, if you love Terran, in the bottom right, he is the final Terran from Jin Green Wings. Make some noise for Maru!
For anybody multitasking at home, he did build his first barracks inside of his main base. We'd like to clarify that for you. Of course, when people talk about Maru, it's not just the macro, it's not just the micro, it's also the mind games. One of the things that has made him such a strong player throughout his entire career has been a little bit of that scrappiness. You know, when he first came onto the pro scene, it was all who's this cute young Korean guy? He's all younger than everybody else. He kind of has this bit of swagger about him, and he was super, super cheesy. And while he's improved in every aspect of his play, one thing that's become notable is he still has that killer instinct in a series. If this were to go to Game 5, Maynard, I wouldn't be surprised to see him go for some crazy proxy barrack strategy to try and end it all right there. He's never been afraid to put it all on the line, and while that has cost him, it's benefited him quite a bit, quite a few GSL victories.
He is tough to predict. I mean, it was a point, especially in TVP, where he would always proxy, and that was what you could rely on, was that he was going to be a bit of a cheesy jerk, and SOS dispatched him in well-good fashion there in the round of 8. But this year, will be very different. In fact, you know, even though Maru hasn't won several GSLs back-to-back this year, I feel like he's looking better than ever.
Yeah, and the thing is, we had talked about this, the strengths, the weaknesses. Acropolis is going to give you a little bit less opportunities for, I think, what has been pretty strong for Zerg players at the highest level, which is those run-bys. You don't have that multiple funnels leading into your natural. The third base, it gets a little bit more out there, but we expect Maru to be putting on pressure and trying to keep Dark on his side of the map. Now, that's not to say Dark is no slouch either. Got to fully expect him to also bring some level of aggression out in this series if Maru gets too greedy or too technical, as that first Reaper is going to come and poke in. Does get a kill pretty early on, gotta say. That's not really supposed to happen these days, Maynard.
Yeah, everyone watching from home is just like, what's the big deal? It's just one drone. Zerg has lava, they can make a bunch more. It actually kind of matters a lot more in the early game here, and at this level, losing a drone is actually quite rare. Very fast third command center from Maru as well in the main.
One gas as well. So what Maru is doing, he's going to open up with these Hellions, but he's not going to have access to super fast tech. He's going to get the starport, but since they're only on the one refinery, this looks maybe like he could go for like a Hellion medevac play or just Hellion Viking into stim, just go straight into bio out of that. But you're not going to have the gas to throw around and be like, hey, I'm going to battlecruiser rush you and go for armory, Hellbat attack. Like, no, your options are a little bit more limited. He could get a safety banshee. He's going to start that second gas now. But this build relies on the Reaper seeing nothing threatening. If you, as a Terran player, do not think you're going to be hit with something like fast roaches, by all means, 3 command center Hellion open all day. With good Hellion micro, no number of Zerglings are going to kill you. So, and we fully expect that level of play out of Maru. Going into the Viking afterwards makes a lot of sense. This map, you have that spot by the natural. The Overlord can see everything at the front of the Terran player's base. So one of the first priorities for most Terran players, get that Viking, push the Overlord away, and then if you want to slap down an armory, you want to go for something else, make that the opportunity to do so.
So we're going to have a bio gain here from Maru as I finish that sentence. Stim does begin. So that is a style that we've seen a lot on this map from these Korean Terrans here and there. You know, mech is something that sometimes was kind of in fashion for a little bit on this map, but bios really come back in a big way. Players like Cure, etc., one of his teammates in Jin Green Wings really love just going up into like 4 to 6 medevacs and just being everywhere on the map at once, really pulling apart the multitasking the Zerg, pushing creep back, etc. And this Reaper staying alive is wonderful. He's going to come in here, check the gases, check the lair timing. Is there a Roach Warren? What's up here? So great stuff from Maru. And the Reaper, just gets caught and surrounded, doesn't get to escape.
You know what, though? That Reaper oftentimes gets picked off trying to delay that third base or being out on the map too much. I think scouting the lair timing there is really nice because since you see it's not finished, you know there's no Nidus coming in. It's not anything like some weirdly fast Spire play. You're not going to be hit with the speed Roach timing. The Baneling Nest, it makes sense. It's standard. If you're a Zerg player and you're playing versus Terran, you pretty much have to get that as your insurance policy if a Hellbat push comes or some fast drop play. Of course, we know in this game it's been extremely greedy from Maru, right? The stupid fast third command center. He's got 2 engineering bays. Mind you, upgrades have not yet started for Dark. And that means, well, he's going to have the opportunity to keep that upgrade lead if he gets them going fast enough, where he can try to get that pressure going. And that's what we know Maru for. He's not going to let up. He wants to constantly keep the Zerg on their side of the map. As we all know, some of the strongest Zergs, like Serral, have really profited well off of the counterattacks and run-bys onto those Terran bases.
Now that was really cool how Maru, you know, a lot of Terrans in this matchup, they want to go up to like 4 Hellions or so, sometimes even 6 to pressure and try and kill drones, try and like force out units. Maru just made the 2 for safety and went straight into bioproduction. So he's going to have quite a few Marines here, and like you mentioned, Nate, that really fast third base. Lovely greedy play from Maru, which Dark isn't really punishing him for. Dark's just happy to go in the mid game here without too much of a scuffle. Now first drop heading across the map here, which will have stim, and 1-1, and combat shield won't be here for a minute. It's going to be a little while.
Yeah, I mean, with the watchtower, Dark sees these medevacs coming, and he took the 4th base outside of the main. So Maru, in this situation, he could scan, clear up some creep, but the creep isn't necessarily pushing towards where he is just yet from this position. So maybe he gets a couple of tumors, but there's no 4th base to deny, so he just stims straight up. He's going to take an Overlord, maybe try to grab a Queen. This Hydralisk desk is a little exposed. That would be a nice grab.
Looks like the Queens are converging here on this Bioforce, which is quite stimmed, quite damaged. Not even using any scans here to go for creep. He was just looking for straight up damage there.
Interesting call. I mean, that's a lot of
he
stim.
Didn't have a scan, I guess, because you almost always want to get rid of creep as soon as you can.
Yeah, that's one of those awkward, I'm on creep. I'm like, I kind of lost the element of surprise, but I still want to do something. And honestly, 2 Overlords, not too shabby, as well as being able to get the creep tumor on the way out. You're ideally hoping that the Zerg players put the 4th base by wherever you're dropping, but Dark are very acutely aware with that Viking as well that the Terran player is looking for that. So another double medevac drop gonna get sent up towards the northeast side. Now this one has 2 siege tanks inside of it, Maynard, so what he might be trying to do, set up a little siege spot by the rocks, drop the bio on the west side of it, and make a slightly more delayed push, try to play off a limited surface area to backstab those tanks. But Dark is just kind of sitting right underneath this. Very risky for him if he goes off creep.
Yeah, Maru's trying to debate Dark off of the creep here so he can take a fight where his tanks actually have the most chance of survival and the Marines can cover them from all those link fittings around it. A YOLO drop into the main base here from Maru. No static defense, no Queen's position, nothing really to shoot up. The Hydralist's not here either.
I mean, he just eats the whole army straight into the main, as you said. 2 tanks now sieging, and as those Banelings come up the ramp, he's going to scan. He's looking for a target fire. If he can get the Banes with the tanks, he could do tremendous damage. Even picking off that spawning pool is going to cut off a lot of the reinforcement potential, but he does load up. One of the medevacs gets killed. Thankfully, it's not one of the ones holding 8 Marines.
Now, one thing that's also going in Maru's favor is that his upgrades are pretty good at the moment. He's heading towards 2-2. He's just started +2 attack, no +2 armor just yet, but no doubt will when he has the second to do so. Second factory also coming down, and we're going to be seeing double tank production here from Maru shortly, or potentially even Widow Mines to thin out the Ling Bane, but he's going to have to respect a big ball of Hydras if that's the case.
Yeah, I've liked the Viking poking, by the way. It's not uncommon for the Terran player to lose that pretty early on, and then Zergs can re-spread those Overlords, but he actually wanted to build a hatch there, and well, the Marines were sitting, waiting, get rid of that drone, and you're trying to just stretch this out. Acropolis kind of gets long on both sides. If you can put on good pressure on both sides of the map at the same time, that's where you try to find a little bit of success, catch the Zerg, hitting that F2 key, moving the whole army at once. You have a sensor tower going up for Maru, but at this point in the game, big things that you're thinking about, when is that hive coming in? The Zerg players, Hydraling Bane is good, very good defensively, but it gets a bit trickier if you're trying to attack someone who has siege tanks. So you usually see them make their way up to that hive, go for Broodlords to deal with that. However, he's going to be careful. This medevac trap gets caught.
Maru a little bit slow in the pickup there, loses a bunch of Marines and a medevac. Still trying to have a presence to the south, but it feels like he doesn't have that much of a convincing presence on the map at the moment. Dark, very, very safe right now. Plenty of creep spread as well. The creep spread in the middle of the map, really nice. Bio getting caught a little bit. Does keep the medevacs alive and most of the Marines alive, so quick snap decision there from Maru.
That could have been way worse.
That could have sucked there. Then he would have nothing on the map whatsoever.
Yeah, this is where it's scary. He's building 2 siege tanks at a time, and it's really important versus Zerg getting that 4th base up, because that's going to afford you that ton of mineral income to start parade pushing, putting out tons of Marines. It's very hard to do that versus the Hydraling Bane, though. The sustain of those Hydras versus Zergling, Baneling, Mutalisk, where you say, oh, if I kill all the Banelings, my Marines just kill the Mutas and I win the game. Not the case when you have a bunch of Hydralisks being supported by those Zerglings. So we really need to be a little bit more patient, thinking a bit more long-term, like, oh, do I make my move into Ghosts, ranged Liberators? But Dark, he's not just getting a hive, Maynard.
He is also getting the worm from down under. The Nidus worm here, has been seeing plenty of it the last week or a bit. And, I mean, this actually might even be a defensive Nidus worm, just to dart around from one base to another. There isn't a ton of presence on the other side of the map for the Zergs to, like, put a Nidus in the production of the Terran or anything like that. Can, of course, push with it. It's very, very easy to push from. And Terran is trying to do something here in the south, gets battered back. Look at the creep spread from Dark. It really is quite nice. Maru trying to get a bit of it receding here in the middle of the map.
Yeah, that's the hard part, and one of the things that comes up in the discussion about map size as well is you have so much more area to spread that creep. But if you can, the Terran player is looking at an ocean of purple. How do you get an attack? How do you get into a position where you can fight where there isn't any creep? And it's so difficult to maintain that. And that's why I'm talking about that later tech. We have 2 more starports being added, but adrenal glands coming in. The Vipers are being added. We see parasitic bomb used on medevacs, abducts onto them as well. There's so much you could do. There's that Nidus inside the main base.
I don't think that was going to happen. Marauder and Tank is on that. Ooh, the catch on these tanks to the south. Even more consequential there. Nice pickup from Dark. The Nidus Worm here obviously denied. Marauders and tanks doing bonus damage to that as it burrows. 3-3 upgrades on the way for the Zerg. Maru had a big upgrade lead for a bit, but it just feels like the Zerg's catching up quite nicely. Rainley's coming on forward. Some connections to the bio, but still plenty left from Maru as he pressures his hatchery.
Yeah, in this situation, you kind of want those Vipers here. You don't have any blinding clouds onto the tanks, so they're going to be able to blow those Banelings to high hell. And these Hydras just chilling back. But Maynard, that tank creep getting up on that base. Also, gotta say, when it comes to the Nidus, usually the first cut is the deepest, but since he was able to prevent the first one, now he's aware. He's got the tank sieged up here. I believe he still has some units inside of his main base, worst case scenario. Yes, so he is now thinking about the worm, and that makes it way less effective. You're not gonna have that same ability as you would versus a Protoss where you're trying to do that Nidus swarm host strategy versus Terran with how mobile the bio is and how fast you can boost around. It's a bit more aggressive than that, which means it's also a bit easier to defend.
The Vipers are juiced up and good to go. A nice catch here from Dark. A few of those reinforcement units coming on in. Maru's army kind of stuck out here. Off creep, yes, but so much Zerg. Blinding Cloud's really nice here from Dark as well. He has a great cleanup onto the north side, and even on the south side. Bio surrounded and getting nibbled to bits there by those Zerglings.
So many Zerglings coming in behind this. 50 more, 62 Maynard. And really, a lot of this comes down, it's kind of weird. You look at it, the upgrades seem even, but Dark gets a couple of good attacks versus that bio. It's the adrenal glands that finishes up. So he's got that hive tech upgrade for his Zergling that just make those fights better. And while it is nice he's been able to put these delays onto these worms, Dark has not been able to get back there. We know that Terran doesn't have recall, which is why you really cannot let those Nidus worms finish inside of your base, as those Lings with that adrenal upgrade will rip your infrastructure to pieces.
He's get out of here. Tanks have been doing a great job on worm patrol. Very nice stuff at the third and in the main. But Dark coming down here with a big ground army. Lots of Lings, lots of Hydras. Not too many Banelings, but it is a little bit threatening. Maru's managed to get his army supply up a little bit higher as he gets closer and closer to 3-3. He had that double starport production, but he's really just prioritizing tanks, Marauders, and Marines, which is a decent enough army if Dark tries to go into Ultras. But if he keeps making Liberators, this army will just run straight through it.
I would like to see an investment into some higher tech with this. Advanced ballistics does a lot. Okay, now the fusion core starts. That's what I'm looking for. Giving those Liberators a little bit more range, and if you space them out, they can work very well for taking down not only the Hydras, but actually target firing the later stage tech. We see Chitinous plating is almost done. Ultralisks. A dummy thick squad is going to make its way onto the map soon, Maynard. And if you're just running Marines, they're going to struggle against that. Even Marauders, you kind of want that support of having either the Ghost Academy or a lot of ranged Liberators to deal with that.
All right, Dark nearly lost a hatchery there. I think that was an F2 to bring those Lings into the fight in the middle. He was worried, but didn't manage to actually pick up the hatchery there was Maru. Dark with a counterattack. Maru trying to secure a 5th CC up here and get it into a planetary. Bio reinforcing. It looks like this base is going to be mostly okay. Only losing a handful of SCVs.
Yeah, but you see the respect Maru shows to that as well. He knows to deal with that many Zerglings, you need to bring a lot of your army. Those adrenal gland Lings are going to rip everything to pieces if you lose track of it for just a moment. Now, advanced ballistics is on the way, as well as anabolic synthesis. That's the upgrade that's going to make those Ultralisks super fast off creep. So they're going to be able to chase down the stimmed bio. And like I said, all of this puts a clock on the composition that you're running. You know, he's been playing Marine, Marauder, Medevac with some tank support, but the Zerg army has only grown. It has only evolved and improved, and Dark has put himself now with a fantastic army composition. If he catches him off guard with a blinding cloud and he can get those Ultralisks in, Maru's gonna have a real hard time. Love this little play though. Sends a few of the Marauders like that hatchery. I remember it was pretty darn low, wasn't it?
Nice play there from Maru. Relatively inexpensive for him. Both players are amassing it back because they've been maxed for a little bit. Maru using a bit of that supply cap to start throwing in some ghosts as well. And with that greatest fire on the way, that's going to be important. Dark's going to have both of those tier 3 options. Ooh, a bit of a surround here on the bio. They pick up the medevac and fall back to that planetary. There's a big counter bio here. If he can split his forces, avoid the blinding clouds. No, Dark all over him here. That planetary under threat. Maru going for the repair, the bio reinforcing, but it's not enough.
blows that planetary to smithereens and takes with it the army of Maru, as well as 20 SCVs, 126 Zerglings on the production tab. Dark says, okay, I can build the late game tech, but if I can take fights like that, I may not need to. That comes down, you don't have that anchor point. You're still playing with a lot of Marines. And while the Marauders, yes, they are tanky, especially with Blinding Cloud coming into play and forcing you to run into those Zerglings, they just don't kill Zerglings and Hydralisks very quickly. So without having the support, without having that huge core of Ghosts to snipe everything, it gets tricky. We do have a Nidus that may actually finish over the dessert, but the rest of the army gets there just in time to shut it down.
Yeah, very, very clutch there. Get through that nice worm, of course. With the nice worms being pushed back, the real threat here, the actual massive danger is this Zerg army, is that creep spread. It has proceeded a bit in the middle, but still very nice to the north and to the south. That creep's getting very, very close to that fourth place. Another Nidus in the middle there from Dark to reinforce this army or even pull back if things get dicey. These Liberators are going to be important to just offer a little bit more DPS from the sky here for Maru with advanced ballistics, create more of a zone for him to just chill and amass that army supply once again and try and get closer and closer to maxed out.
Yeah, that's the real key here. Those Liberators are great at zoning, but also they're going to prioritize the hits over the Hydralisks. And at that point, it makes it a little bit trickier for the Zerg player to push into you. It creates a target for the energy to be spent on something other than the Blinding Clouds and the Parasitic Bombs. They're going to want to try to abduct some of those Liberators, and that opens up windows for the Ghosts to also make plays. But this topside base, huge Ling Bane run by.
And he gets on that planetary before Maru has a chance to defend it. A big pick off there from Dark. There is another command center here, and of course he can land there and technically mine with the SCVs that are remaining, but there's not that many SCVs, Nathanias, and it won't be a planetary. So run-bys are going to continue to be a massive threat up here to the north of the infrastructure of the Terran.
You can really see that, feel that suffocating impact of the Zerg player taking the map, spreading that creep, and it's so hard for Maru to try and cross. Yeah, he runs straight over. There's Banes and Ultralisks and Zerglings. Oh my! Banelings from the top side too, abducting the Ghosts into the army, but gets a great EMP on them to prevent any more grabs.
Yeah, the EMP there was what I was waiting for Maru. He does get it on the Viper, so takes him out of the fight for now. Takes a bit of a trade with Dark's army, and he's getting closer and closer to an army that can actually fight what the Zerg has at the moment. A lot more Lings on the way for Dark to try and punish Maru for having too many tanks, too many Ghosts, and too many Marauders. He's going on top of that Nidus one, but he's on creep again. Maru does not have enough army here to fight back here in the middle.
Gotta be so careful. The Ghosts are gonna cloak and step back. And we see that the nice part about, even though those Liberators can't kill everything, they do provide that anchor point for the units to retreat. He's given himself a little bit of a position, and we have to give some credit. He's kind of recognized that Dark is not necessarily dive too deep on this later game tech that he's unlocked. He's still mostly playing Lingbane Hydra, and this is where Ghost Liberator is going to be able to get a lot done.
Phew. One Ling goes down, and that base is safe for now.
Yeah, you're not parking here, bud. Sorry.
And so much creep here. It really has been a problem for Maru all game long. But he is getting more Ghosts. He's still producing tanks as well, which is amazing. He's going to have a very great ground-pounding army with a lot of snipe potential, and of course, EMPs. I don't think Maru's gotten that new EMP shockwave ability, but he might want as soon as the Vipers and Infestors. Soon to happen here for Dark. EMPs are going down. He does get some lovely EMPs on the Vipers there, but does he actually have enough to stand and fight?
Well, the tanks on the back are actually able to shoot Maynard, and while he will blow up the command center, had a chance to lift it, the army does not get completely destroyed this time, but well, the Baneling run by that was too fast for even us to catch.
Yeah, we missed that one. It was too fast and too furious. 20 SCVs going down.
And another Nidus.
Maru's starting to get a little bit broke here. Nathanias getting worried for this late game for the Terran.
It is so hard to play, and really, Dark just says, okay, you're going to switch to the slower composition, then I won't go into the tech-based army. And because of that, it's almost impossible to attack with Ghost Liberator. You leave yourself so vulnerable, those Baneling run-bys we were talking about, you get slowly picked apart, but the trick is, if you step on a creep with that army, those Liberators can't cover 360 degrees if they try to flank you, because then you're in the middle of the map. But also, the Ghosts are not going to deal very well with those large amounts of Banelings. They're specialist units. They do decently versus the Zerglings, sure. Versus Hydras head-to-head, okay. But the Banelings are going to blow them to pieces. Any damage cancels the snipe, which means they're so vulnerable, and Dark's going to dive on top of this army again.
Nice EMPs again, but that Lingbane army you were talking about, Nathanias, is getting all over those tanks. That front line of the Terran getting pushed back. Ghost reinforcements, though, they are tanky boys. They're just moving through those Banelings, everything off grid there. The Ghosts actually do a nice job there, picking off some of the Corruptors as well. Broodlord's not a threat at the moment to Maru, and he hangs on.
Fantastic, steady targeting. Now, I will say the key here is not to kill him, but he's securing these bases and buying time. Lings are going to run by again for Dark to the northeast, and one Liberator will eventually kill these Zerglings, but they do have the DPS necessary to take out those workers as well as the command center if he doesn't lift it. But we see great steady targeting shots with the Lingbane flank.
That flank from Dark is too damn good. Maru losing that push again. He's got his Ghost Cloak, but the Overseers are still alive. They're getting picked apart and torn asunder by the Zerg reinforcements. Meanwhile, a lot of SCVs went down, and Maru's just going to tap out. Dark far right here in the red. The Korean Zerg currently up in the series. This is Dark! Far left of Disco Bloodbath from Jeanette Greenwing, still looking to put a point on the board. The only Terran remaining in the tournament, he is Maru! Ooh.
There's a lot of cheers.
Anaheim wants some more Terran games, that's what I'm hearing.
They do. Well, let's be honest. We've already got some pretty good Zergs on the other side of the bracket. I can understand the sentiment, Lee. And of course, everybody asking themselves, if anybody could, who could actually defeat Serral? And I think there's a very large amount of the StarCraft community at this point that has just been itching to see Maru play him on a big stage. Of course, we are still a ways away from that, but this is where that journey would begin if it was going to happen.
That's right, and I feel like, honestly, Dark is probably the scariest opponent Maru could have in the round of 8. Like, I feel if he gets to the next stage, he's up against Classic, who is, by the way, after that last series, my favorite Protoss of all time.
Oh, yeah.
I actually think that Maru's TVP is ridiculous, so in a theoretical situation where he does get in that semifinal, I think he would be favored in that series. And,
oh, yeah.
Which means a grand final seed against either Serral or Reyna.
Really good opportunity, although, of course, as you just pointed out, Classic, well, when he's getting beaten up by Nidus Swarmhost, he just throws the book at him. The book of Protoss cheese, that is.
That's right. Oh, man. Shadow Stride DTs to pick off a lair.
That's what I like to see. And, you know, there's been a whole discussion around types of builds that have been strong for Terran this year. There was a lot of discussion with, you know, the post-BlizzCon balance update. People are talking about what's good, what's not, what's hot. And battle cruisers were one of the points that people were bringing up in terms of variety of strategies. We saw Special do fairly well, but I think against a player like Dark, it's really risky to go for any build like that, because one of my favorite things about him is he has that killer instinct. If he smells a greedy build, if he thinks he has a chance to get you, he's going to go for it. And I still, especially if he goes up like 2-0, it wouldn't surprise me if Maru did a similar build to game 1, that he just says, oh yeah, you're being greedy. I could probably just kill you. I'm up 2-0, you know, I'm in a good spot. And that's one of the scary things about Dark that makes him so good. And Maru already doing some stuff that we don't see terribly often. The eBay block on the 3rd, just saying, I want to delay your base. I want to force you to spend money on something else and make this a little bit less of an economic game.
Yeah, just Dark going for another queen here, but all pretty standard for the Zerg. He's not being slowed down too much. Reaper is still alive, which is the most important thing here for Maru. He's going to be darting in and out of the infrastructure of the Zerg to keep the Zerg honest, make sure he's not hiding any tech on him. Because, as you mentioned, Dark does have that killer instinct. If he just decides, I'm going to make a Roach Warren and rally Roaches across the map, he will do that, and he will not think twice. He's a very decisive and often unpredictable Zerg.
Yep, indeed he is. And that is one of the strengths of Terran that we talked about this year as well. And one thing that I have found curious is that Nidus Swarmhost strategy that we've seen used a bit versus Protoss also works really, really well against Terran players who go for mech builds. So you have to be very careful if you want to do any of those styles. And I think that's one of the reasons we've seen the bigger shift back into bio. There hasn't been a crazy amount of mech because of that. But we're going to have a Banshee opening with some Cloak. Not quite as greedy of a strategy for Maru this game. He wants to have that aggressive potential. Hellion, Banshee, possibly Hellbats. If we see an armory pop up, we will keep our eyes open for that.
Yeah, I was waiting to see actually if he was going to continue to produce Hellions. It looks like he is going to be the case. It would be weird to go for Cloak Banshee tech and not continue to produce Hellions, but we do see a bio follow-up. Stim has begun here for Maru, so once again, you know, Stim, bio for the win at the moment here for Terran and TVZ. It's mech is unfortunately, especially battle mech, which was popular for all of about 6 months, has really fallen to the wayside.
Yeah, it really seems like Zerg's just figured it out.
Yeah.
In terms of the way that the control worked, we saw so many highlights of players like Raynor, especially, right? You get the Lane Bane surround on Hellion Cyclone. It's just not that strong against a player who doesn't feed into it. And similarly, the abusive potential, if they go for any other type of mech, is that you just get blocked into your base by Swarmhost, Nidus Worms. I think I've cried a lot watching Serral beat up the WCS Terran players with that strategy throughout the year. So you're going to see, at least I would say, most players sticking to bio, especially if you're up against a player who would do Nidus Swarmhost. Dark, by the way, would do that. So it does take a little bit away from your options, right? And in that scenario, I think it gets a little bit easier for Dark trying to predict what Maru's going to do. He's like, all right, this is my game plan. Maru's probably going to play bio against me. And maybe the only real thing that you're keeping an eye out for is some cheese.
Once again, Maru is shaping up to have much faster upgrades than the Zerg. This is another version of that 3cc build, but obviously more Hellions, so that got slowed down a little bit. Not quite as greedy as game one, but 1-1 bio, there it is. 1-1 upgrades kicking in for the Terran. I don't believe we've got any Aegir chambers for the Zerg just yet, but Baneling speed has begun. And he's going to be Ling Bane new to this game, similar to how Serral played this map against Time in their round of 16 match.
Yeah, and I like that a bit more for Maru. It gives you a couple more opportunities to punish the Zerg if they go too far with the Mutalisks. And I also think, at least for myself, the Drilling Claw Widowmine strategies work a little bit better against those, but are also a little bit more stable in the long run. Banshees do come in, grab 7 drones. One of them does get picked off, though.
The 7 drones, I feel like that's mostly okay. You know, you're slowing down the economy of the Zerg. And, you know, obviously you want to keep both alive. You want to continue to be a threat and one-shot those drones, those Banshees, one-shotting drones if they shoot them together. But just managing to slow down the Zerg, forcing them to put a bit more into the drone count and hit the middle of the game with less drones is kind of what he's looking for here.
Yeah, and I do like that too, because what you're trying to do as well is pull the Queens one way so the Hellions and Reapers can jump into one of the other bases. Yep. Maru instead says, fine, I'll just kill some creep tumors, try to keep you from taking over the map as well. But once the Banshees are no longer pushing as hard, usually we see those Queens come back out, drop a bunch of creep tumors, and the Zerg player is still able to get some pretty good coverage. But where he has kept the Hellions, this could be a potential spot for him to try and squeeze out fast tank bio drop like he did in the last game, if he can keep the creep from being away from there. But man, Dark is so on top of it.
Yeah, he's really doing a great job with his creep. Maru, though, you know, he's got Stim. He's got 1-1 nearly done here for the bio, which is coming forward. And all these Hellions are still alive from the early game. Getting a Queen pick-off, and that creep we was talking about, Nathanias, it's under threat.
Dark's already got Banelings with speed finishing up, so I think there's maybe you YOLO onto that 4th hatchery and try to shut that down. But once the Marines are taken care of, there are a good amount of Mutalisks now coming out onto the map. He gets off creep.
And the Baneling's looking for that big connection. A lot of the Marines are still alive, but the Zerg is consolidating its reinforcements. And now these medevacs and the bio doesn't look like it's enough to push forward. Maru reinforcing this, but it is with a tank, unfortunately, which does not shoot up. These mutas really surprised him.
Yeah, really good. I mean, everything just came out at the perfect time for Dark there. The way that this build timed out. If he waits even a little bit longer before those Mutalisks come in, then the next wave of reinforcements is here, but he just jumps on top of this, capitalizing on this situation perfectly, Maynard. And Maru getting pushed all the way back to his natural.
He's just dropping that tank to try and soak up the ground army and cause that ground army to get away from his bios so he can actually fight back the Mutalisks. These mutas of Dark are actually potentially game-winning here, Nathanias. They're going on top of a naked mineral line.
3 fresh mules. Only 1 survives as 6 SCVs get picked off. And these Mutalisks doing a perfect job, because Maynard, this is not the only thing happening. He had Lings on that 3rd command center, and if he does not get units over there, it's going to be a pressured target. GG, Dark just takes game 2 like that.
Sometimes TVZ just be like that. Dark, as we mentioned a couple times, very, very decisive and can just end the game right then and there. Maru dug in so deep, really dived very, very deep there for that 4th base. Did not have too many exits, had a bit of a rally distance, and those mutas really just caught him with his pants down.
Yeah, he's looking so fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to get into it. It's time for game number 3 here for our Terran versus Zerg.
All right, guys out there in Anaheim, do you like Zerg? If so, make some noise for this guy in the bottom right. On match point, he is Dark. A lot of Zerg fans out there, I like it. In the top left here, do you want him to fight back? Do we want to see one less Zerg here in the round of 4? Send your energy to this man in the top left. He is Junior Greenwings' Maru. Anaheim has spoken.
And they want to see the Terran player make it through. And honestly, a lot of people coming into this tournament, a lot of the breakdowns, the analysis, you're talking about strength of maps, strength of certain compositions and certain matchups. Classic is already able to defy that, but if Maru could do it too, it would really bring this to that next level. Of course, trying to carry the banner for the Terran players around the world. But he has such a long way to go if he was going to make that happen. Now, Winter's Gate, you talk about map features, you've got some cliffs to work with. We see he's not cheesing, he's not proxying this game, so that won't be as much of a factor. you do have some more openings around that third and that natural with the low ground, the high ground, multiple ramps, the slow zones, or as Tasteless calls them, the bubulas. But if you get into that late game, you also have to be careful about Zerg counterattacking you through those same pathways that you want to use to attack a little bit earlier. And it once again comes down to, can you get those attacks at the right time to slow down the Zerg? Because Dark, he hasn't been playing in this crazy greedy way that's made him vulnerable. He's been very on top, very aware of everything that Maru's been doing in this series, and he's just dealt with it so, I mean, it feels like effortlessly with how good he makes himself look.
I mean, game 2 was our quickest game of the day, for sure. That was just an absolute bopping, which happens sometimes. Reaper Scout here from Maru heading across the map. And we're going to see if Maru tries to get a little bit more on the greedy side this map again, or if he goes a little bit more safer. Of course, last map he did go for sort of, you know, a little bit of a more old school 1-1-1 opening with like 6 Hellions, a Reaper, Cloak Banshees for drone harassment. And this map, I feel like it's a little bit scarier to be greedier on. Reaper is doing the early game ZVT dance here. Nice control from Dark.
Yeah, the opportunity, of course, to get some damage done is always nice. Another dream of Terran is to get in between a drone and a possible third base, but Dark was able to squeeze that out at a good timing, so he's not concerned about that. No, nothing like that engineering bay block that we saw on Disco Bloodbath. So, Maru, what is it going to be this game? He has the starport being built. It is
tucking it back against the CC as well, which means that he's trying to hide something here.
Yeah, and he's not going to swap onto a tech lab, is kind of my instinct when I see this. So maybe it's just a Viking, maybe it's a medevac, or I don't want to say it, but maybe you would tuck it back and hold for something else. I don't think a single BC rush would really do it in this situation. No. So my guess would just be Viking. He just doesn't plan on swapping the add-on. Or if he does, it's just going to take a long time to do it.
Well, Reaper just sort of dancing around the outside of where the Zerg usually takes their 4th pace.
Oh,
the fusion core gets dropped, so he is hiding it for a reason. Our suspicion's coming true here.
Yeah, it does make me wonder. I feel like one of my favorite builds to see that I think does a lot more. Oh my god, you know what? Roachhorn. This is the game where he gets that Roachhorn pretty early on, Maynard, and we have seen one of the. If you can figure it out, if you can get your Spidey sense here as good as Dark's, and you jump on an opportunity to pounce on a Terran player, it takes a while to get that BC going. And even if they do, I'll tell you from personal experience, Maynard, having roaches flooded down your throat, one battlecruiser will not kill all of them. Newsflash.
I know that feeling. We're different leagues, but I know that feeling. As I always say to my to people that watch me, I'm just like, one of the greatest counters to the BC is the roach. Across the map. Yeah. Even though it doesn't shoot up, it will just kill you before it exists.
You drown the Terran player in Zerg blood while the battlecruiser just tries to kill all of them, and there are just going to be so many. Of course, the Hellions being this active is a big plus. You want the Hellions to take damage as fast as possible from these roaches so that the alarm bells can go off. We saw Special almost hold something like this in the round of 16, where he actually got an armory early enough that it could do some work, but I still don't think Stim is going to be a factor for this, so you need to be so careful. Even the Lings delaying this command center would be pretty huge. Look at that. He's just flooding out Zerglings behind this. You're going to teleport that battlecruiser across the map, and you're going to immediately type GG.
And a big committed attack here from Dark. This game could just unceremoniously end at any second here. Maru goes through the middle of the map. He sees the roaches, and he's going to pull back. Having that 3rd CC finish would be a nice bit of an addition to this wall, but it does have a lot of vulnerabilities, and there is still no starport unit. That BC not far away from finished. A lot of roaches from Dark, though, and a lot of them are going to become Ravagers as well.
Yeah, the hard part here is what he really wants is to just get the roaches onto the Hellions so that the Zergling flood behind can kill everything. There's simply not enough guns on that battlecruiser to kill everything in this army, Maynard. He's in the natural. He's throwing the bios onto the BC. Of course, that bad boy, nothing can shoot against it. But as you're Dark, all you want to do is micro the Ravagers back and let everything else do the work for you. He's landed so many bios on the command centers. The Zerglings are going to clear up what's on the ground. You can also get those engineering bays potentially too. Good reaction to bring the Hellions down when he does, but oh my god, that command center can get. Oh, Maynard! That's the 3rd!
Yeah, if that goes down, Maru's chances of coming back here are really, really rough. More bios here on Dark. He's trying to intercept. He's going to get it.
Oof. Okay, 3rd command center is dead. And that's, I mean, ladies and gentlemen, that's exactly what we were trying to say earlier. When you do these styles, this can be really good, but Dark just has that instinct we were talking about. He's the player that will be aggressive. He got up 2-0. He's like, all right, maybe you'll do some meme build. Well, as a famous StarCraft player once said, if your opponent's doing something weird like that, just go kill him. And he has crippled the Terran player, resetting almost those upgrades. And now the Zerglings come back again, forces him to tactical jump home.
And he does indeed. Now Dark is joining up here to consolidate a great economic lead here. As Maru does still have some life in the tank. You know, he lost his third base, which certainly sucks. He still has 48 SCVs. He's going into bio, but again, he is well and truly not in the lead right now. Make no mistake, the Zerg is in a fantastic position.
He's got a long way to go to bring this game back, but the only silver lining, I guess, he didn't lose the eBay. So he's still going to have his 1-1 at a decent time. If he's able to do anything with his bio soon, he'll have just a little bit of an edge to maybe try and carve something out with some X-Factor level micro. And of course, taking a look, that's that income starting to have its toll. Being brought a little bit more even by the 3 mules that have been called down. Of course, having those drones spread out over 4 bases, you're going to mine out way more slowly than the Terran. Keep in mind, I don't think his tactical jump is necessarily back yet, so you don't want to commit too far if the Zerg player was able to pounce on that battle cruiser. If you lose that here, well, I mean, you might as well just tap out. He is going to get the 3rd command center again, though. He's getting some siege tanks up, so this is what he needs to do. You need this battle cruiser to create a little bit of space, distract the Zerg player, and if you can, pick off some drones.
Technical jump off cooldown. He brings that BC back home. Maru a little bit too good to lose a unit that expensive. And we do have that 1-1 push to keep, like you mentioned, those engineering bays live. So he has a stim, combat shield, 1-1 marine ball here with double medevac support. But Dark, look at this Roach and Ravage account here, and the creep as well. Looks like Dark could take a toe-to-toe battle.
Yeah, the Marines can trade a little bit better against the Roaches, but when there's this many, you're just trading out against the army, and that you need to actually get a bit more than just army damage done in this situation. Getting the tanks to anchor this is really big. Would have loved to have seen him get the battle cruiser back up there too, because that's also just going to be able to sit there, put on hold position, and let it rain down and draw those biles away.
Oh, the bio is just trying to shepherd these Ravages away from the tanks, but it looks like he's giving up too much space into the Zerg. Biles coming down, and the tanks get picked off just like that.
That's so unfortunate. These Ravagers, especially with the Marines stimming this much, they're going to be 1 and 2 tapping those bio forces. And Maynard, the armory has only just begun, so he couldn't start his 2-2 upgrades. And you know what that means? It's about to even up. And, oh boy, the Nidus network to try and finish him. He may not even need it here. He catches the reinforcements, and that's a whole lot of Roach Ravager. Battle Cruiser's going to say, go away. But maybe buys him just a little bit of time before that Nidus tunnels across the map.
Looks like Dark's looking at the main base here, and Overlord very, very close. Turned it into a Dropper Lord, so it looked like he maybe wanted to ferry some Roaches into the main base or some Lings or something like that. But this could just be used for Nidus Worm Vision, which will unload infinite army supply at the speed of light into the Terran's main base, right next to the bio facilities. As Maru paying attention, Dark's losing a few Roaches for free here, but he does a lot more where that came from. Maru pulling back. He's coming back to the Worm. He's bringing everything back, but will he be there in time?
Teleports home. The next Nidus is queued to start immediately, and now he's on to the Terran infrastructure. Maynard, if he picks off any of this production, it's going to be so hard for Maru to do anything. The army is sprinting back, but loses a siege tank, and now the Queens are here to spread creep as well.
And also pick off that BC with a Bile zoning back the low ground bio reinforcements. Medevacs have come home. SCV's been pulled off the line to engage. It's all or nothing right here for Maru. He has to survive, but there's so much Dark. He's everywhere. He's tearing him apart from the inside.
Every single unit that pops out of those barracks getting ravaged by this Zerg army. Another worm pops in the 3rd base, and
GG! Dark! He does it with a 3-0 and swiftly dispatches the final Terran. And will go on to face Classic.